Let's see. Are you there, Misha? Oh my God. All right, is anybody out there? Checking one. I know I'm a few minutes late, but I was having technical difficulties. Hello, everyone. Is anybody out there? Just checking everything out. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Just not if you can hear me. Is there anyone at all? Check 1, 2. Okay. Hi, Josie. How are you? Oh my gosh, welcome. I'm just waiting a few minutes so everybody can join us. I'm just waiting for my co-host, Misha Paul, to join us. Misha, are you there? Send a message. I'm just waiting for my co-host, Jen. Welcome, Jen. Nice to see you here. All right. Take this volume down here. Oh my gosh. We got volume down here. All right. All right. Oh, Mary. Welcome. Welcome to Rising Above Hell, the podcast episode 2, The Unspoken. I'm just waiting for our co-host to join us. And Victoria, yes, Victoria was supposed to be my co-host today, but unfortunately, she's had some stuff come up, but she is amazing, and I cannot wait until our podcast together. And tonight we are joined by the lovely Misha Paul. And I'm just waiting for her to join. And she's having a few technical difficulties over there, but don't worry, we'll get through it. Again, I want to welcome you all to Rising Above Hell, episode 2, The Unspoken, where we're going to be joined shortly by Misha Paul. And I'm just going to have my e-smoke on hand and my coffee. I got my coffee. We're good to go. My mic. I better have my mic a little closer. Can you all hear me loud and clear? Misha! There you are. Okay, now. I want to bring you on the video. Oh. Nope, I don't want to ban her. Nope, I want her to come in. Okay. I think you can press a button. Aw, thank you, Victoria. You're so sweet. All right, we're going to try to bring Misha Paul in here live. If you guys can all hear me loud and clear, please let me know. I'm testing one. Oh, hello, Summer. So nice to see you here. I would like to add Misha. Misha Paul. We're going to be starting this episode very shortly. And thank you so much, Mary. Thank you for that. All right, perfect. Thank you, Victoria. My voice is pretty hard to not hear. It's pretty hard to miss this voice, isn't it? Okay, Misha Paul. It's saying, so Misha, you're going to have to hit something to join the video. So if you could look on your screen, and you might have to do it from your phone. I don't know. This is only my second live on Facebook. Usually I do them through other platforms, but Misha, if you might be able to click a magic little button. If anybody knows which button she needs to push to join me live on here right now as a co-host. I'm just trying to figure this all out. Awesome. Okay. Misha. I don't know which button. One of them. I think on the bottom, you're going to see on the bottom of your phone, you're going to see some buttons, and there's a button for join. Allow viewers to request to join you on the video. Yes. So I've had a couple of requests already. So you just have to request to join Misha. You just click the button that says request to join. And I really think I need to get anti-glare glasses because these ones are glaring quite a bit and they look a little crooked. Story of my life. All right, we're just waiting for Misha Paul. And again, I'm just going to start by saying that this is episode 2, The Unspoken. And before we get into today's episode, I want to say something that might make you uncomfortable. And if you haven't suffered from addiction or trauma or whatever in your life, which I'm sure there's only a very small percentage of people that have not been affected by addiction, these episodes in Rising Above Hell are going to make you very uncomfortable. Addiction is not a moral failure. It's not a weakness. It's not who you are. Addiction is the solution. It is the answer to, or was the answer to, a problem that already existed long before the substance, long before the behavior, and long before the escape ever showed up. And until we talk about that problem, the real one, nothing changes. And that's what we're doing here today. And it might be the most important conversation you hear all year. And right now, we're just waiting for Misha Paul to join us. On the left side of the comments section, Misha, you can click join, request to join, on the left-hand side of the comments section. Again, oh, Tony. Hello, Tony. Welcome back to episode 2. Merle, hello, Merle from Medicine Hat. I hope you're doing well. Just going to wait a couple more minutes here. Leanne. Hello, Leanne. How are you? You're just going to click request to join, Misha. All right, Leanne is watching us all the way from Saskatchewan. And Tony, hello Tony, and Victoria, Misha, Summer, my amazing Summer, Jen, Josie. So glad to see you guys all here tonight. And welcome to episode 2 of Rising Above Hell, the Unspoken, with my special guest, Misha Paul. I can't see the photos right now, so I'm sorry, but if somebody can assist Misha Paul to finding a way to join. If you're on your phone, it's on the bottom panel. Cheryl, good evening, Cheryl, my good friend Cheryl. Gregorio Lewis, hello, greetings from Morelos. Morelos, welcome, Gregorio. All right, we're just going to give it a few more minutes while everybody clicks to join us. I'm just going to go here and see if I can help her with this. All right. Hola. Buenas tardes, Gregorio. All right. All right. I just want to mention real quick here that some of the topics that we discuss here on our podcast can cause triggers. If you're suffering from addiction, or if you are in an environment that is less than comfortable, or that you are struggling in any way, shape, or form, and you're listening to this podcast, chances are there may be some conversations that may cause triggers. Please make sure that you're in a safe place. Make sure that you're surrounded by people that will keep you safe, and reach out if you need any support of any kind. All right. Thank you. No. All right. Of course, story of my life, my phone is almost dead because it was supposed to work on my computer. All right, how are we all doing out there this great weekend? And to all of our American friends, happy Independence Day, July the 4th. I'm sure the fireworks are going to be absolutely wonderful in all parts of the U.S. today. Oops, shit. Oops, pardon me. I'm trying to figure this out to try and get our co-host, Misha, in here right now. All right, Misha, how are you making out? Are you able to find that button that says request to join? Let me see if I can get you on here. Who said stop trotzing? Oh my gosh. All right, so I'm scared to press any buttons that the podcast will end, which I don't want to happen. But anyhow, hello, Barney Trotskop. All right, so Misha seems to be having some technical difficulties at this time. So I am going to just call on you guys to continue with this podcast. Misha, if you're listening right now and you can hear me, just keep trying, because it doesn't matter what time you get in. It just matters that we have this conversation tonight. Misha is an incredible human being that has dealt with many things in her life as well. She is a number one best-selling author of Behind Closed Doors. It's a book that she wrote on domestic violence. She is the podcast host to Silent No Longer, and she is all about empowering people and rising above adversity, trauma, and domestic violence. And I really hope that she can join us here today. If not, we will have another podcast with her. I'm going to be looking at other options for podcasts, and I want to make sure that everyone that is a podcast host doesn't have any difficulty in joining. I'm going to open up the board now to any questions that anybody that is listening right now has. And I would like to say that if you have the chance, please check out Misha Paul's page. Check out the group that she has. Feel free to join it. And check out her number one best-selling book, as I said, Behind Closed Doors. And check out her podcast, Silent No Longer. She is an incredible human being with incredible strength, and she is all about empowerment. So please check her out. You will not regret it. And so that takes us on to a kind of another totally different twist on today's show. Oh, Pops made it to the podcast. Hey, Pops. Hey, Mama. So nice to see you guys here. Who else did I miss? Did I miss anybody else here that has joined us? All right, well, right now I'm just going to start the podcast, and I would like to open up the conversation to you, our podcast guests, in the conversation comments, and I welcome any questions that you have about anyone that you know that is suffering from addiction or any kind of trauma, childhood sexual abuse, domestic violence, and the list goes on. There are no questions that I will not answer, and I will always answer them to the best of my ability. Some conversations may be difficult for me as well, but I'm more than willing to create a vulnerable space for all of us, and I think that starts with me being vulnerable with you. And so if I hesitate or start to cry, which I don't really do, but if you make me cry, I will. But anyhow, it really doesn't matter either way. What I want to accomplish by being here today with everyone is that you're not alone. You do not have to do this alone, and there is a lot of support out there for us, and this is a great starting point if you don't have support already. Please, somebody start asking me some questions. Misha, maybe you have some questions that you want to ask while you're trying to figure it out. Victoria, I would love to hear some questions from both of you ladies and anyone else out there. Merle, you might have some questions as well. My hope is that this conversation tonight is going to reach someone out there who needs it exactly when they need it. And I believe that with everything I have, that somewhere out there, this will help someone. So don't be afraid to ask any questions. Don't be afraid to open the door to questions that go unanswered. I've talked about this before, where they talk about the person that, early in my sobriety, here is an addict, blah, 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 the whole story about that. And then they talk about Jessie in the 17 plus years clean. Well, the stuff in the middle is the stuff that nobody ever talks about, or hardly ever talks about, I should say. The stuff that keeps you there, that sustains you and maintains your sobriety. It's about having the tools to be able to get through another day, to get to 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, and the list goes on. And having the tools that you need to be able to do that. Now, this podcast is a spin-off of my book called Rising Above Hell, the book that I wrote about some of the experiences I had in my life. The reason I wrote the book was one sole purpose. I wanted whoever it was out there reading my book to know that they're not alone, that what they're feeling right now in this moment, they are not alone. And let me repeat that. You are not alone. No matter what you feel or think, there is somebody out there that maybe not the exact same circumstances, but the same feelings that we get in that hell, where we think that there's no way out, that we're way too far down in the rabbit hole, way too far down in the pits of hell to be able to rise above it. I promise you, you are never too far down that rabbit hole. And no matter how fucked up you think you are, you're not. You can do it. You can get out of there. It's not going to be easy. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to tell you that, oh no, you know what, if you just do this, it's going to be all peaches and cream, blah, blah, blah. It won't be. It's going to be hard as hell to get out of there. And it's going to be even harder to stay there, to maintain that. But one thing I do promise you is it does get easier. And you start creating the life that you deserve. You start creating the life that you once only dreamed about. And you can really start creating something that will make your life worth living. I have decided to turn my pain into a purpose. I have decided to turn my trauma into transformation. And I have decided that with what I've experienced, that I can use that now to help others that are in the same place I was. And 17 years is 17 years. It's a long time. But you know what? It seems like a lifetime ago that happened, but it also seems like yesterday all in one breath. And I'll tell you, when I was at my worst moment in my life, when I thought there was no other way out, I wanted so much to live, but I can tell you I certainly did not want to be alive. I didn't want to exist in this anymore. I didn't want to feel what I was feeling anymore. And all I wanted was the chance to actually live. And I felt so unable to do that. And I felt like there was just no hope. I just felt so hopeless. I don't know what other word to use. And so in that despair, in that hopelessness, all I wanted was to stop the pain somehow, some way. And, oh, Mama, you're here. Thank you. And in that pain, and I remember from a very, very young age and first dabbling into drugs, I felt that was it was my savior. It really was, because I just wanted something to take away all that pain and to help me cope with it. And I know that time and time again, people are constantly saying, addiction is a big problem. Addiction is a big problem. Whereas addiction is not the problem. Addiction is, and the drugs and the alcohol and whatever else you're doing, is the solution to a problem that was there long ago before you became addicted. It's the only thing that is helping you to get through to the next day, the next moment, in most cases. And so we need to find out what the actual problem is, so that we don't have to use and get so out of our minds to deal with the pain. And so it's a process, and it's a lifelong process. I still have things that I work on, and I will always continue to work on myself to make myself better in every way that I possibly can. And I'll tell you, these podcasts are not just for healing of myself or of others, but for myself as well. And so when I say that this journey about becoming vulnerable and leaving myself exposed, it's because I feel that if I don't become vulnerable and open up to you, how can you ever feel comfortable enough to open up to me? I'm just going to take a pause on that for a minute, and I'm going to wait for you guys to start asking some questions, because I would really like from you guys, what do you guys want to know? Ask me the questions. Bring it on. And give me 2 minutes while I try and get our lovely co-host on with us. Oops. Okay, questions. Anybody got questions? Oh my goodness, what did I do? Okay. Now I really messed things up here. Sorry, Misha. I'm trying to multitask here and trying to get you on at the same time, and it's not working. So I'm going to just do the best I can here right now. Cheryl, Randy, Barney, Tony, all of you out there, each and every one of you, Leanne, anybody, Mary, anybody out there got any questions? Jen, Josie. How does one know who can be trusted to help you? Well, you know what, that's a big question. Sometimes it's not even a matter of trusting them. It's a matter of, if you can find it in yourself, because you never know if you can really trust somebody. I know that I've found that I have a couple of people that I trust with my life. Welcome, Brenda Simpson from Alberta. Nice to have you here. It's really hard. And you know how the saying goes that sometimes it's better to talk to a stranger than it is to talk to the people that you thought you could trust. And I think how I interpret that is, Sometimes sitting on a park bench and talking to a complete stranger and releasing that's half the battle, is the release of that. You can't always trust the people that you confide in, and I know that all too well, but trust yourself enough to know what you tell them. And I think instinctively we know when we're talking to certain people. I think we know what we can and what we can't trust them with. I mean, not always, but I think if you really listen to yourself, I think you'll know. I think, yeah. And that's a tough one. How do you know who can be trusted to help you? I think you have to go with your instinct and intuition, Cheryl, on that one, because that's it's a real tough question because, like I said, there's only people in my hand that I can trust to talk to. So, yeah. Forrest Gump bench scene comes to mind. Yeah, right? Absolutely. And a box of chocolates, and that's all you need. Okay, next question. So let's say a person has a drinking and drug problem. Does that make it doubly difficult? Well, I think addiction is addiction. So if you're using a multiple of substances, I know for myself, I would put anything anywhere in my body that I could, if you know what I mean, without going into too much detail, to numb myself. So some people use drugs and alcohol combined. So addiction is, again, it's addiction. Both of those, drinking and drugs, they're both equally as potent and equally as dangerous for the addiction and for the problem that you're trying to solve. So I think once you get into the root of the problem and you really start digging in deep as to what is causing that, and for you to want to numb that, I think once you get to that point, then, again, it kind of goes hand in hand. Some people only have a drug problem. Some people only have a drinking problem. Some people have both. So, yeah, I think that I don't think it makes it doubly as difficult, because I think when you go through the withdrawals, I think you're going through withdrawals no matter what. If you've got a substance abuse problem, it's going to be equally as difficult to get off one, the other, or both. Next question. How can you tell if someone is being honest? Well, again, I think it all comes down to intuition and what you feel in your heart. I think most times when we talk to somebody, if we really listen and pay attention, I think we can most times tell. I mean, there's some people that, in my experience anyhow, have been pretty good at deceiving me. But again, I'm a firm believer in, just be careful what you say to people if you don't want it repeated, and pick and choose those people very carefully. For some people, that kind of betrayal of trust, that kind of betrayal can be absolutely devastating. For others, I mean, it doesn't affect them as much. And again, it's all in what we're able to handle and where we are at in our journey. So you can't always tell if somebody is being honest, and that's where you have to trust yourself to decide whether or not you really truly feel that person is being honest with you. These are great questions, guys. And again, we've got a bunch of new people here, so I just want to go through the beginning of the podcast again, and I want to welcome you all here today. And my name is Jessie Tylre Williams, and I am the author of the book Rising Above Hell. And that's where the spin-off of the podcast came, because I really wanted to connect with everybody out there that was suffering and that was dealing with addiction, trauma, domestic violence, childhood sexual abuse, and all of the above. And these conversations are going to make a lot of people uncomfortable, and it's supposed to. It's very real, it's raw, and I don't pull no punches against what I truly feel. And I wasn't always like this. I've always, not always. I've tried to be as forthcoming as possible, and I've always found myself to be a straight shooter. But now I've come to a place in my life where I'm telling my story. And it's going to piss, and it has pissed off a lot of people, because I was supposed to keep my mouth shut, but I couldn't anymore. And I knew that the story had to be told, and I told it in my way. And the book has, I think, 12 chapters in total, and not I think, I know. And it's got 12 chapters in total, and it talks about all the experiences in my life. And then what I've done is I've made a workbook at the end of each chapter for the reader to be able to use their life and their trauma and what they're experiencing and write it down. And it's one of these books where you can go back a year later and you can answer those same questions and get different answers, because you're going to be in a different place in your life. So Rising Above Hell, it is available on Amazon for those of you that don't yet have it. But today we were supposed to have a very special guest, Misha Paul. And Misha is from Tennessee, and she is the #1 best-selling author for Behind Closed Doors. It's a book on domestic violence. And she is also the podcast host to Silent No Longer, which was very fitting for the podcast today, The Unspoken. And so if there's anything that you guys want to know that relates to the unspoken, or things that you want to ask about me and my life, because I cannot speak for anyone else but myself, but if there's any questions that you want to ask me directly about my life, I am more than happy and open to answering any questions out there. Next question. If someone breaks your trust once, should you trust them again? Well, yeah, it really does depend on the situation. And again, that's up to you. If you truly feel in your heart, Crystal, hello, Crystal. If you truly feel in your heart that you should trust them again, go ahead, because you never know. I mean, how did they betray your trust? What did they do? Did you take it the wrong way? Did they say it the wrong way? If you feel that they broke the trust between you and that person, then it's up to you because it doesn't matter how or why. It's how you feel about that betrayal. That's the most important thing, is it's how you feel about the betrayal. So you have to decide whether or not you're willing to accept that person into your life again and trust them. We've been told alcoholism is a disease, but isn't it a choice? Yeah, that's a good question. Just like addiction has been now classified as a disease. And now remember, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a certified psychologist. I'm none of those things. So I'm going to say right off the bat, everything in this podcast is based on my experience, the knowledge that I've gained from my experience, and the research that I've done. So you can take this with however you feel, but this is based on how I feel about it, experiencing the addiction, experiencing both sides of it. So for me, I think that addiction in general and alcoholism, because I kind of put them under the same umbrella, because again, both of those things are trying to mask a problem. And so they become the solution. And so for me, a disease is something like cancer or flesh-eating disease or these other diseases. To me, that's a disease. Addiction is the solution to a problem that already exists. Addiction is not a choice. Once you're addicted, you don't have the capacity to make the right choice because you're screwed up. So that's just putting it in plain layman's terms. And so what you have to do is you have to decide at that point whether or not you're going to continue to use. And yes, that is a choice, but we don't always have the capacity to make the right choice when we're consumed by alcoholism or by drug addiction. So until we go through the detox, until we clean ourselves from the addiction part of it, then it's almost a need. So do I believe it's an actual disease? Well, contrary to what a lot of research says right now, research that Big Pharma pays for, but we're not going to get into that. I don't want to get political here. But for me, I think that alcoholism is definitely a huge problem, just like drug addiction. And I think alcoholism falls under that same umbrella. And it's, again, trying to fight off demons that are there. And so until we get to the source of those problems, we're going to continue to make really bad choices. So it is, and especially in the beginning, it's definitely a choice in the beginning. Yeah, hereditary. There's that word again. You know, I'm like I said, I'm no mental health expert in terms of the research that's been done. I'm no expert in terms of the scientific research because a lot of it is based on other information and statistics. So, you know, they say that being a child molester is hereditary. I think those are all choices. When you get to a certain age, if you know that your family has a history of alcoholism, you might want to be very careful when making the choices, whether or not to drink. But, you know, for myself, I don't know if I believe that drug addiction and alcoholism is hereditary, because when you grow up in an environment where it doesn't consume your life, I think your chances of success at not becoming that, you know, yeah, that's a tough one for me to answer because I don't want to mislead anybody. I can only give you my thoughts and opinions. But personally, myself, I don't believe it is hereditary. I hope that answers your question, Cheryl. Linda. Oh my gosh, Linda is here. Hello, Linda. I miss you. So Cheryl, I hope that answered your question on whether or not alcoholism is hereditary or a disease. And again, these are my thoughts through experience and through what I've witnessed in other people's lives. So again, I'm not here with a science lab doing studies on people. Although if anybody's interested, I can open up a little lab and I can start, what do you call that, doing research on people? No, I'm just kidding. Anyhow, again, my name is Jessie Tylre Williams, author of Rising Above Hell and host of the podcast Rising Above Hell. Today we were supposed to be joined by the lovely Misha Paul, and she is the incredible #1 best-selling author of Behind Closed Doors, a book on domestic violence, and the podcast host to Silent No Longer, which brings up the big Unspoken podcast today on what we were supposed to talk about and on topics that are not to be talked about, and especially when it comes to domestic violence, childhood sexual trauma. I myself got told to shut the hell up and go outside and play, and so still to this day I'm not supposed to talk about it, but there I went again and opened up my big mouth and pissed everybody off. But that's okay, because you know what? It's out there now, and my hope is that it can possibly save it from happening to somebody else. Sheila, hello Sheila, how are you? Nice to see you here as well. I agree, a lot of it is family, not hereditary. If you grow up in that environment, then a lot of it falls back on the kids and so on and so on. Yes, absolutely. I firmly believe that you become a product of your environment. Yes, Misha, why don't you hit the bottom button where there's a little person, and I think that's an A, and see if that works. It's on your phone. Oh, now what was I talking about? Damn it, shiny nickel. Oh, environments. So it doesn't matter if you're a child or an adult. You become a product of your environment. If you are growing up in an environment where your home is filled with alcohol and parties and drugs and everything, you know, you get the odd story of a kid growing up in an environment like that and becoming extremely successful and completely opposite of what they grew in. Unfortunately, there is not as many of those stories as there is for those children falling into those same patterns. And so, excuse me, so as we get older and we have the choice on what environments we want to subject ourselves to, that is where we need to make sure that we're staying safe. And that starts as early as our early teens. You know, peer pressure. You go to a party and then you go to another party and you continue to go to these parties and be subjected to all sorts of alcohol and drugs and different people. And so the longer you're in it, the longer you become it. And especially in your teenage years where you're so impressionable and so, for most of us, so easily swayed, you know, just to be popular, just to fit in. And so it can be pretty lonely for you if you don't fit into certain categories in school. You know, and thank God, I think schools are getting a lot better these days than when we were growing up. But I think that the peer pressure can sometimes push kids into a place that they don't want to be. And then the opposite can happen as well. You get these kids that are totally isolated and left out of everything because they won't go to the parties. They're not hanging out with the popular kids. And the next thing you know, you find them and, you know, these are great students. They do well in school. And then you find out they committed suicide. So there's so many stories. So I think that we need to create an awareness for our children, and we need to start it at a young age. And we need to create an awareness and the tools for these kids for peer pressure, for being isolated or isolating themselves, the bullying. I know there's a lot of things that have been implemented into schools now about anti-bullying and stuff like that. It's still not enough because there's still so much of it going on, and it's getting worse in a lot of cases. I mean, so again, environment is huge, and as long as we keep our side of the fence clean, for the most part, I think that creating that kind of environment for ourselves and making sure we're okay, I think that'll branch out to the people that you surround yourself with, to the type of life you live, to the success you have, and everything in between. Next one. we all learn from what we see in our own lives in the teen years. Absolutely. And even younger than that. I mean, I was in high school in 1969. Oof, the things I saw on campus, thankfully, I was chicken. I can't see you being a chicken, Cheryl, but yeah, okay. But yeah, absolutely. We're so impressionable. And again, a lot of it is led by peer pressure from a very, very young age. I'm just trying to look through all these messages here. Anybody else have any questions for me tonight? I would love to get some questions that, are going to tilt the boat a bit here. So feel free to ask me any question. I'm going to drink some coffee while y'all think about that. Oh my God, I love coffee. No, it doesn't have any tequila in it. All right. So today I want to talk a little bit about the Unspoken, which is what the primary title of this podcast was supposed to be today. You know, we go through life, and again, starting from a very, from a very young age, we get told what we can and can't say for the most part in most families. And I think we can teach our children, our grandchildren, and our nieces and our nephews and everybody in between to talk about things that people tell us not to talk about. Now, I'm talking about childhood trauma. I'm talking about childhood sexual abuse. I'm talking about drug and alcohol questions that they have from a young age. They need to be able to be verbal about all of this, and they need to talk about it. Because what we think is a stupid question, or what somebody else thinks is a stupid question, is probably a question that could change the path of a life for somebody. I always say there are no stupid questions. The only stupid questions are the ones that you don't ask, because then you just keep them to yourself and nobody knows about them. So ask as many questions as you possibly can, and get your children and grandchildren to ask as many questions as they possibly can. Because if we don't listen to them when they're young, they're not going to be able to feel like they can come to us when they're going to need us the most. And that's in their preteen and teen years. And if they don't have the ability to speak to somebody at that time, they never will. And again, it's going to be the whole gateway to turning them from one path to the other. Danette, my friend Danette from Edmonton, welcome. Nice to have you here. Another question that we have tonight is, what do you think about cyberbullying? Yes, this is a huge thing, and I was actually going to start talking about this when we were talking earlier about bullying in schools and stuff like that. There is so much cyberbullying going on out there that a lot of people don't even know about, and the parents don't even know about until it's too late and they've already lost their child. And, you know, like, you don't have enough likes, or you don't have enough clout on social media, you know, and so you're not fitting in. So this can be hugely detrimental to a teenager, preteen or teenager, and even adults are getting bullied online. And yeah, the longer you hold it in, the longer and harder your path will be. Absolutely. And so the cyberbullying, I know they're doing a lot about it, and I know Facebook especially, there's a lot of comments and stuff that you aren't even able to post anymore, because they're trying to ban a lot of that stuff. But again, You got to keep yourself safe all the time. You have to teach your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews. You have to talk to them about all that, and that it's not acceptable no matter where the bullying is coming from. Children who are exposed to any type of abuse most often think it is normal and sadly don't report it. Absolutely. And that's where education comes in, and that's where the talks from a young age come in. And so when we teach our children from a very young age, and by children I mean this could be our nieces, nephews, cousins, children, grandchildren, etc., etc. If we teach them from a young age that this is not okay, some of them will feel like they're not alone. And I know for the most part that when that is happening to you, you do feel alone. You feel like it's isolated. And especially if you do say something and you get shut down, it makes the impact of that tenfold. Because not only did you try and voice it, but you got shut down when you did. You probably got called names. You probably got told you were stupid and to keep your mouth shut and go outside and play. I know I did. So I think it's crucial that we really start educating and giving children the tools that they need to be able to survive that kind of abuse. A child, whether it's a physical abuse, mental abuse, whether it's sexual abuse, we need to give these children a voice from a young age and let them know that they are being heard. And it's a difficult task, but I know if we keep doing it, we can save one kid at a time, and that's what it's all about. Roughly what age do you think a person has the nads to accept their abuse of children or kids and step up to the plate and actually apologize for their misgivings? To accept their abuse of children or kids and step up to the plate and actually... I don't think that ever goes away. I think as long as that person that was the abuser is alive, there's an opportunity for them to apologize. And I think, as you know, like I said, as long as they're alive, they have the ability to apologize. There's never a wrong time to try and ask for forgiveness to the person that you abused. And I think that goes indefinitely. Yes, because, sorry, Misha, if I go off of the live right now, what it'll do is it'll stop the live because I'm on my phone. And so, why don't you try leaving the group chat right now and then join the live again and then see if you can click request to join after you do that. I don't know, it's just a suggestion. What do I think about karma? Well, karma can be a bitch, I know that. I think karma, you know, that's a completely different topic. I firmly believe that everybody gets their karma, whether it's good or bad, at some point. Maybe in this lifetime or another lifetime, but that's my belief in that. Age isn't a factor. The work has to be done. Absolutely. Absolutely. Summer, I want to be the karma bus driver. Yeah, are you on your phone, Misha? If you're on your phone, on the bottom of your phone, there's a mic button, there's another mic button, there's a flip the camera button, there's some kind of suitcase, there's a link button, and there's a person button. Click the person button and ask to join. Pin a link to encourage viewers to take action. Add a new link. Well, no, I don't want to mess that up. I don't want to lose this. Shotgun on that bus, Sheila, right? I can't get on it on the phone. Okay. Well, everyone out there right now listening, I'm really sorry that we're having these technical difficulties with Misha today, but I want you to know that she will definitely be joining me on another podcast, and we're going to probably do our next podcast on Zoom or Riverside. And so we will definitely have Misha here with us, and so that she can have a conversation with us on this. And again, you can find Misha Paul on all social media platforms. She is the author of the #1 best-selling book called Behind Closed Doors, a book on domestic violence. And she is the podcast host to Silent No Longer. So please follow her and find out more about her. She's an incredible human doing a lot of work. You have nothing to apologize for at all. And so I'm just glad that you were able to join us in the chat anyhow. But Misha, while I have you at least in the comments, why don't you have a conversation with me? Ask me something. And let's get this conversation going about the unspoken. I'll give you a minute. Yes, silent no longer. Yes. So in the podcast, Rising Above Hell, we talk about everything from a sobriety journey to PTSD, trauma. We talk about addiction and the effects that addiction can have on you and the people that you love. And I don't know of anyone, I know a lot of people, I don't know of anybody that hasn't either suffered from addiction or knows somebody that is suffering or has suffered from addiction. And people talk about the pandemics in the world. I think addiction is probably one of our greatest pandemics known to mankind. The amount of people that are suffering alone in silence right now is astronomical. And the numbers are not declining. I know there's been some studies done, and they're very vague studies, but just look at the streets in these cities on what's happening. And again, they're trying to mask the problem with addiction by more pills, more medication. And so that is not solving the crisis. All it's doing is putting a Band-Aid on a very big boo-boo. Well, how long do you think that Band-Aid's going to stay on? It's not going to last long at all. And so I think that we need to dig deeper and we need to get to the source of the problem. Mental health and sobriety. How do you suggest people struggling take their first steps in recovery? Well, it's kind of a catch-22 because there's obviously huge mental health issues that has caused their journey in addiction. So I think the first step is to get your body detoxed so that you can start the healing process. And I don't think, and I firmly believe that anybody that gets clean or sober, whatever title you want to put on it, I think that what happens and why the number of failures is because what they're doing is they're getting clean and they're staying clean and they think, oh, this is great, I'm doing good, but they don't do the work that keeps you there. So once you get to that point, and once you've gone through the detox where the addiction and the cravings and all that stuff is out of your system, I think the first thing that you have to do is start dealing with the problems, the mental health issues that are causing the addiction. So I think you need to go really deep, and you need to make sure that you're in an environment that protects you and that keeps you safe and allows you to be vulnerable without being exposed. And so for a lot of people, that's huge. And especially people that come from small communities. That's a huge deterrent for a lot of people to reach out for help, is because they're scared somebody else in town is going to know about it, going to know about their trauma, going to know about all the stuff that they've been dealing with. So I think there's so much stuff, and that's why I'm so happy that there's a lot of online counseling now and mental health resources. There's tons of online support now. So I think it's really important for those people that are scared of exposure in smaller communities. I think it's huge for them to just go online and try to find some online resources. But it's a work. It's a lot of work. And that's why mainly that I wrote my book, because a lot of people can't go to psychologists, or they've gone to, like for myself, I went to rehab, I went to psychologists, psychiatrists, and blah, 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 blah. I went to all these places, and seriously, all they wanted to do was put me on other medication. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. Well, at first I did, because it was great, because I was getting high off the shit, right? So when I decided that that was it, that's when I said, no, I don't want any medication. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it all the way. And the doctor literally told me, the 2%, he said, you're either going to go back to using again, or you could possibly die from the withdrawal symptoms. I looked at the doctor and I said, well, I guess I'm going to die trying. And I almost did. I mean, I got really, really sick. I ended up in the hospital a couple of times. And so for me, it was that I knew the work that I needed to do. And so that's why I wrote the book. And at the end of each chapter, I've got a workbook, so that the person that is reading that chapter, and it's a book that you can jump from chapter to chapter, depending on where you are at in your life, because we all have different stuff. And so I wrote it in a way that the reader could actually do workbooks with the healing process and with the chapter they just read, and how they could apply it to their life, reflection questions, resources for them if they were struggling, and so on and so forth. So that was really huge for me. And so I think dealing with the mental health issue as soon as you're able to is huge to maintaining that sobriety. Oh, hello, Darlene. How are you? Oh, love you too, Darlene. Thanks for coming today. When I was working in mental health, my clients said the one thing that helped them stay sober was to relocate and cut all connections with people who were in their life prior. I agree with this. Would you agree? Absolutely. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we become a product of our environment. So for me, it meant moving as well. We don't all have that choice, but you can still move yourself out of that situation. And for me, I had to move myself completely out of the environment I was in. And so I didn't move that far away from where I was living when I decided to quit, but I still moved. And so I had to disconnect with everything and everyone I knew, because the only way that I was going to be able to get through this was by having absolutely no way to get any drugs if I needed them. And so I knew that the only way to do that was to be far away from them. And by far away, I mean, a couple 100 kilometers. It wasn't that far, but I was so sick. And if somebody would have been around me at that time when I was going through the withdrawals, I think I could have very easily fallen back, because when you go into those kind of withdrawals and you're so sick that you want to literally die to get away from that pain, I think that if I would have had a way to call somebody, like, I just need a little bit right now to get me through these withdrawals, I think I probably would have done it, but I didn't have any access to any of that. I deleted, I actually ended up burning my phone and smashing it. And so I knew the numbers that I would remember in my head, and that's all that mattered. And for me, it was that important to make sure that I didn't have the chance to use again. And so I kept the numbers of the people that I knew were important to me and that cared enough about me that they wouldn't give me the opportunity to use again. Okay, now we're, so yeah, definitely I agree with you, Misha, on that 100%. Change the energy of your circle, absolutely. Jeanette, journal about how bad the crash is, if that helps, that coming down, how you feel. For the coming down is far harder than the couple of hours of what you think is great. Remember the crash, agree, work on what is making you want to keep going back. Love you, Jessie. Oh, I love you too, Danette. Absolutely. I have written more journals than you can ever imagine. I have hundreds of scribblers and pieces of paper on all the writing that I've done over the years. And I still do. I still write almost every day. I write something. And one of the biggest things for me is because of the amount of years that I used, that withdrawal for me was like having your skin turned inside out. And I've talked about this before, and you have that itch that you can never scratch. And it almost drives you insane. And when I think about it, there's a level of insanity that comes with that. It's so bad that I remind myself that I never, ever want to go back to that kind of life, ever in my life. And so I remind myself every once in a while where I came from. And I remember very clearly. And so, yeah, 100%, Danette, you're absolutely right, is journal about it. Write down everything that you're feeling in the moment. I know, like for me, for the first little while, I couldn't write, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't, for drinking water, I would throw up. Once you get to a point where you have the ability to write or do anything like that, journal as much as you can. It's like your personal therapist, and I talk about that in my book as well. It's like a personal therapist, like you're talking, I wrote a song, this pen in my hand is a symbol of what my lips can't tell, and the paper that lies before me is something I know so well. And I promise you, even that release of writing it out, and you may not be able to reread it right away, but you will go back at some point and you will read what you wrote, or maybe you might never go back and read it. And it doesn't even matter. What matters is that you wrote it out, whether it's scribbles. I know sometimes I'm looking at some of the stuff I wrote and it's like a bunch of chicken scratch. And I have pretty nice penmanship. But when you're writing and you're just like so messed up and just trying to get out of your head, it's hard sometimes to write nice. But absolutely, 100% agree, Danette, that you should journal and write and then write some more. Again, I'm so happy to have each and every one of you here with me today. I'm so glad that you guys could join me tonight. My name is Jessie Tylre Williams, author of Rising Above Hell and host of the podcast you are currently watching, Rising Above Hell. This is episode 2, the Unspoken. And I welcome any questions right now for anybody out there who is struggling, who knows somebody who is struggling, or any questions that you want to ask me about my journey and how I got here today. February 1st, 2009, it was my first day clean. And so I'm just over 17 years clean. And I don't care if you're 1 minute clean, 1 day clean, or 10 years clean. You matter, your story matters, and you matter more than you will ever know. Welcome, Harmony. Nice to see you here. Okay, we got a request here. Oh my gosh! We did it. Ask Misha. Yes. We did it. Misha. Oh, we're adding. Okay. Oh my God, hallelujah. I got the light.
That's so funny.
Okay, so I'm trying to get to the comments now. Oh, there they are. We're back in business. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the incredible Misha Paul, the #1 best-selling author of Behind Closed Doors, a book on domestic violence. She is the podcast host to Silent No Longer with Misha Paul, and we are joined by this lovely guest today. Thank you and welcome, Misha. Finally, after an hour and a half, we did it.
I know. Because I couldn't get on my phone, and then it finally let me on my
Oh,
phone. So I don't know.
Perfect.
Here I am.
Well, Misha, thank you so much for being here today, and truly grateful to have you on as my first guest. I'm just going to straighten this out a bit here, and I know we're going to get a ton of questions here right away for you. So before we get into the heavy stuff here, Misha, can you please tell our listeners right now and everybody out there, in your own words, not the bio, not the credentials, let's talk about you.
Well, I've had a journey in life. So I started, the reason why I wrote my book was because I seen that show Made on Netflix. And that show made my entire life make sense. I never knew what domestic violence was, except for somebody was hitting you. And growing up, I had grown up, goodness, around people hitting each other. There was cops being called all the time. Either the man was removed or we were removed. It was just violent all the time. So I thought everything was normal. So growing up, I made a vow to myself that nobody was ever going to lay their hands on me. And that was it, because that's all I knew. And then I got into my relationships, and I didn't realize that all the toxic behavior was the beginning part of getting physical. So then my first relationship started getting physical, and we decided to quit. But we had kids together, so I went back many, many times. And then, yes. And then my husband and I, when we were married, it was completely different. It wasn't really physical. I mean, the physical part with our relationship was throwing items, punching walls, kicking walls, grabbing my arm if I tried to leave a conversation, and that sort of thing. It was more of that emotional and psychological abuse. And then when it wasn't affecting me anymore, because I was pretty used to it because of my life on how to dissociate from it, it was going after the kids. And when I realized what it was doing to my kids' mental health, that was when I was like, all right, I'm done with this. So I thought about waiting until they were 18. And I was like, no, I have to do this for them now. So I ended up getting a divorce. I always tell people, try to have a plan if you can. But after I seen that show Made, I realized if I didn't realize that all of this was domestic violence, then there's probably so many people out there who don't. So that's why I wrote my book. It's pretty short, straightforward, different types of domestic violence, goes in a little bit about my story. And now I just want everybody to have a safe place to tell their story. And that's why I started my podcast. And now I'm just helping get the word out there and just helping anybody through the situation and to heal. That's my story.
Well, thank you so much, Misha, for sharing that with us. And thank you for being here tonight and having the courage and the bravery to do what you're doing. And I see on social media a lot of what I've seen you do, what I watch you do, and how you communicate with the people. And so thank you for that. And I admire you, and you're an inspiration to a lot of us out there. So, yeah, thanks again for taking the time, and especially after everything we went through here tonight to get you on here. I do have a few questions. I know there was a couple of questions that came up. What am I doing here? Yeah. Okay, so I lost it. Anyhow, so like everyone, when things start to happen in our lives, and especially with domestic violence, I mean, it usually happens so slow. And I know for anybody out there listening right now, um, uh, that is either at the hands of domestic violence or has been at the hands of domestic violence, there is help out there. I have a ton of resources available on in my book, and
Mhm.
I'm going to be posting some in my group as well. And we can probably post some in yours as well, Misha, right?
Yeah.
Um, you don't have to stay there. And I know that can be very scary. I know for myself, it was extremely scary leaving a guy that I was with for a while. And it starts so gradual, you know, it starts by a few
Mhm.
comments and jealousy. And then it starts by, you know, that friend isn't good for you. That person isn't good for you. And then it, you know, starts with just a kind of a hit, you know, a slap beside the head or something. And then they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, you know, and then it just, it's such a slow but fast process that you sometimes don't even realize what's happening. And then you start to take the blame for it. Like, oh, maybe I did something to deserve that, because you're already in that mindset. If you've already accepted it to that point, you're already at a mindset that has diminished any belief that you had in yourself that it wasn't you.
Mhm.
So I think it's super important to access help as soon as possible, or get out of the relationship if you can as soon as possible. What would you say to somebody that was in the beginning stages of that domestic violence right now?
Um,
I'm not talking about the escape plan. I'm not
right.
talking about when it gets to that point. I'm talking about
Like the very first signs.
exactly.
And that's kind of tricky though, because when you first start seeing somebody and you think that, you're falling in love, or even if you think that you are falling in love, you're not going to see the signs. And that's the part, that's why you get into it. And I feel like unless you're really, really educated on seeing what the signs are, you're not going to recognize them. And a lot of people don't. And even if you know that some of the signs are there and you really care for that person, you're just going to be like, oh, and make up an excuse. And that's why people get so deep and they feel like they can't get out. Because by the time you realize what's happening, you're already like, I don't know, 6 months, a year or longer in. And now you're just like, what happened? How did I get here? And then you have to rebuild yourself back up to be able to get the strength to get out.
Right.
But I mean, some of the first signs, um, it really just depends on the situation. Some things that I would look out personally, if it was me going into another relationship, now knowing what I know, if somebody is talking about the future very, 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 very quickly at the beginning stages, like maybe you're just dating or you just got together, and like they're like pushing like years and years out of their plans that they have for you, that's one of the major signs. Because if you're just getting to know somebody, you're not going to have your whole life planned out with them.
Right.
And I feel like that's a type of love bombing. Like they're trying to
Absolutely.
reel you in and making you see this whole life that you could have with them. And I've had that before. And let me tell you, it was nothing like they said it was going to be.
Hmm.
So
But I think,
another
now
one
correct
is,
me if I'm wrong, but I
mm,
think, like, on that topic there, I think that, I mean, we all struggle with something in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's so important, like you're saying about people not seeing the signs right away. So it does happen very gradually.
Yeah.
But I was already so damaged when
Mm-hmm.
I got into relationships
Yeah.
that I already felt undeserving. Um, and so you almost think that, oh, this is just normal. This is what it's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be. I deserve
Yeah.
it. You know, who else is going to want me? Because that's always a common phrase that they use. Like, well, who's going to want you, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
lucky. You're lucky. You even have me. You know, that kind of.
Yeah. Always. They make it sound like they're doing you a favor in life.
Exactly. So, so I guess my question then is, if I guess if somebody like Cheryl, I love you, Cheryl. She says, guess I'm weird. All it took was one hard push from my 6'3" husband, and I told him if he ever did that, I'd kill him. He
Mm-hmm.
backed up 3 steps. Yes, and not a lot of women have that kind of strength, Cheryl, and kudos to you, because
Yeah.
I sure wish I would have been like you, because half of my life, or my whole life, would have changed drastically. Um, Unfortunately, well, like for myself, I was already so damaged that I thought, you know, this is it. This is as good as it gets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, and again, I think it goes back to the education part, making sure we have enough podcasts out there, have enough literature out there, have enough resources for women to be able to access this, and men too. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of really, really messed up relationships where the men are at the hands of the abuser. So
Yes,
I'm
and the men
talking
need
in
to
general.
like start talking about it. I've
Absolutely. And it's
had
a
a
lot
few,
more difficult for them to do it, right?
yeah, I've had a few people reach out to me and they want to tell their story, but they're like, I'm like a 6'3" guy with muscles, like who's gonna believe me? And all they have is shame. I'm like, everybody has a story.
Yeah,
And all the men just start telling their story, it's gonna make other men feel comfortable, just like us women. You
exactly.
know, we didn't
It
want to
has
tell
to
our
start
story
somewhere.
either. Hmm. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for that so much. And thank you for for your comment there, Cheryl. I believe, I don't believe you would have done
Yeah.
anything less. It really boils down to the person knowing that they are worth it, 1,000%.
Hmm.
And that's the point I was trying to get at, is it's so important, again, the education and the mentoring and the counseling. And if you are in a bad place in your life, whether you're a man or a woman, and you're struggling with your self-worth. And so for me, I didn't even, and as screwed up as it sounds, I didn't even know what I was doing to myself. The How I felt about myself was irrelevant. It didn't matter. That's how messed up I was. So my feelings, my life, all that stuff didn't matter. And I know there's a lot of women out there that feel the same way. For me now, I mean, if I ever got into another relationship, if I ever entertained that thought, I would just, I would probably be a little overkill. I'd be on the other side of the fence, right? I would be like, one wrong comment or whatever, like, you're out, you know? So it's like, you know, I would hope I would be in a good enough place if I decided to ever entertain another relationship, that I would, you know, have enough compassion and kindness, uh, but always know matter of factly. And I'm in a place now where I would be able to see through all of that. I can have a conversation with a man, even not in, and like on an intimate level or anything, but I can have a conversation with a man or a woman, for that matter. And I can tell by their body language, by their conversation with their significant other, if that's a healthy relationship. And that's only because of the experience I've had, not just with my own life, but
Hmm.
with mentoring others as well. So, I mean, I think that's the other thing is we have to just, we have to keep doing what we're doing to make the world a better place. And I always say, if we're saving one person, my parents, my godparents, I love them so dearly. They gave me a necklace one time with a starfish on it. And they told me the story about the little boy that went to the beach collecting starfish. Have you ever heard that story? I never did until my parents told me. But their little boy was collecting starfish along the beach, and when the tide washes in, the beach is covered with thousands of starfish. This little boy would walk on the beach, and he would throw the starfish back into the sea. And this older fella comes along and he says, "Hey, son, what are you doing?" And he says, "I'm saving the starfish." He goes, "Look at them. There's thousands and thousands of them. You're never going to save them all." He goes, "You're not going to make a difference." So he picks up a starfish, throws it in, and goes, "And well, it made a difference to that one." And so so when they gave me that necklace, I mean, I hold it dear to my life. I always remember that story. And I remember what I'm doing and what you're doing, Nisha, and what Victoria and so many like us out there are doing. And the difference that we are making in the lives of people that we don't even know. And so I think it's so important to keep doing the work that we're doing, because a lot of people, even though they're not reaching out and they're listening to our podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's helping that one person. And I really believe that if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to help people in the masses. And it all starts right here, right now, right? And I want to say hello to my amazing friend, Sherry. Hi, Sherry. Thanks for joining us tonight. And for all those newcomers out there, my name is Jessie Tylre Williams. I am the author of Rising Above Hell and co-author of #1 best-selling book, Transforming Pain into Purpose. I'm here joined by Misha Paul. She is the #1 best-selling author of Behind Closed Doors, a book on domestic violence. And she is the podcast host of Silent No Longer with Misha Paul. Please check her out on social media as Misha Paul. And again, thank you so much for being here today with me, Misha. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today.
Absolutely.
And just a few more questions, and and then we'll open up the chat one more time, and then we will call it a night. But thank you for finally being able to join me. So
You're welcome.
yeah. So what was your rock bottom moment? Like, we all talk about rock bottom, and I talk about my rock bottom and finding the basement.
Yeah.
Hang on a sec. Are you aware of the type of people on the internet, like scammers and sextortionists? Oh, yes, I'm very
Yeah.
aware of what social media is all about. So thank you for that. And yes, Emma, we all need to keep ourselves safe when we're on the internet. So yes, thank you for that reminder. So for me, my rock bottom, I found the basement, and you know, it was a deep frickin' hole. And
Mhm.
so can you share with us what your rock bottom was, and tell us a bit about that, and what that turning point was for you?
So it was a few things leading up to it. It started, we'll have to like rewind a little bit to when I was a child. I was molested by my cousin, and I was also raped by him. And after I had a car accident, we had to move into the house that all that happened to me in. So I was living in this house where all that happened to me. I was just in a car accident. I lost all my schooling, my job, and I was in a very bad relationship with my kids' dad. So, and I had 4 kids or 3 kids at the time. Well, no, 4 kids at the time. It was like 8 or 9 and under. So, and we were trying to separate, but we just kept coming back, because it was just easier. And then every single time I tried to leave, my family would stop talking to me, and then that would break my heart. And so I just kept going back to him. But I can remember one day I was just laying in the bathtub, and I was like, oh, all my kids were sleeping. And I was like, I could just end my life right now and just be done with this because it was like 5 years of this. I was in pain every single day from the car accident. I like did a lot of damage to my neck. And I couldn't take any medication for it because everything gave me so many side effects or would make me sleep, and I had to take care of my kids. So, and then living in that house, that caused me even more depression. So I was in a really, really deep depression. And I was laying there and I was like, ugh, I could just end it right now and it could just be done. And then God was like, but who's going to find you? And it would have been my kids. And I was like, I could not do that to them. And that was like the moment that I decided that I had to do something. So that was the moment that I was like, all right, God, you want me to get up out of this tub? You're going to have to help me because I didn't know what to do. I lost everything, my schooling, my job. I had no money. I couldn't get a job because people would hear that I was in a car accident and they wouldn't hire me. So, but I got up and he helped me through it. And I was finally able to leave the relationship. I did have to stay in the house a little bit longer, but my landlord let me stay there for free. You know, he was a family friend. So that was a huge blessing. He helped me find a job, got me back into school, and slowly my life started, moving forward. And then I got married and I moved out of state, but that was my rock bottom in that relationship. And then my next one was I started having the same thoughts of suicide, but this time I knew it was like the beginning stages of like I need to do something or this isn't going to end well. So that's when I decided that I was done and I needed to start making a plan.
So, first of all, thank you for sharing all of that with us. I know that, it leaves us very vulnerable, and but talking about it always hopefully helps others become vulnerable and open up as well.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that. Um, so through all of that, and going through the cycle, did you feel like it was a cycle, your suicidal attempts and thoughts? And do you feel like where you're at now in your life, you have found enough healing that you're beyond that, or are you willing to talk about that?
It was definitely a cycle, and it all stemmed back to is I just felt like I wasn't good enough, wasn't worthy enough. Um, and I don't know, I felt like nobody loved me. Like no matter what I did, I was never good enough. And I stopped praying for my marriage and I started praying for myself. And that's when my whole life changed. And that's when God was like, let me love you. And I let him show me what love was like. He had me quit my job, which I fought because finances was a big thing for me. If I didn't have my own finances, I was dependent on somebody. And I didn't want to be dependent on anybody just in case I need to be, like run away or something, because I like to have that money.
Right.
And so what I did, I quit my job and he taught me about toxic behavior because I couldn't figure out why I kept running into the same situation every single time. Like, why do I keep ending up here? And that's when I figured out that I didn't know what toxic relationships were. He taught me what that was. Somebody gave me the book Boundaries. I learned what boundaries were. And that's when everything changed. When I learned what boundaries were, because I had no boundaries. My whole life, I had to do everything that I could to keep people around me happy, to keep myself safe, because I was in some pretty scary situations at times. So I learned at a very young age to keep an eye of your surroundings and just make sure that other people are happy. So that's what I was taught to do and learn to do. And then I carried that into my adult life, which then got me into cycles. And when I learned boundaries, people started dropping like flies out of my life. It was amazing. I was like, goodness, is that all I had to do all my life is just do boundaries? Like, what? I didn't even get all the way through the book. First 3 chapters, and I'm like, this is great.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's
And
funny how that
then,
works, isn't it?
and then I started loving myself and learning about myself and just learning about domestic violence and how to recognize it sooner. Um, I mean, I still have a lot of healing to do. Do I get worried about going into a relationship or thinking too much about relationships. Sometimes, yes, but I'm very cautious. Let's just put it that way.
Right. And
But I also,
absolutely.
yeah, I've also learned respect. Like if somebody disrespects me once, I'll be like, "Hey, I feel disrespected when you do blah blah blah." If you do
Hmm.
it again, you're just showing me that you don't care and you are gonna just keep disrespecting me, and I just walk away.
Right. And I think that's a huge part of everything, is like you said earlier, is knowing your boundaries
Mm-hmm.
and setting them and sticking to them, and not accepting just because it's this person or that person.
Yeah.
And generally, you know, it's usually the people that are closest to us that we have to give those reminders to, right?
Yeah.
And I think once we start accepting bad behavior from people that we love, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and we allow that to happen, not only does it filter out to our surroundings, but especially our children. So
Mm-hmm.
I think when we accept that kind of disrespect and treatment from, whether it's your spouse or your family members or friends or whatever, and the kids see that, they think that's okay. And
Yeah.
they all of a sudden become the person that they target for that disrespect. And then they allow that in their lives. And unless we lead by example, then it's a continued cycle. And it's up to us to break that cycle
Mm-hmm.
and to teach them, right? And so what you're doing, I think it's amazing. And you said it earlier about you're still healing. And I think that throughout our life, as long as we're on this side of the dirt, I think we're always going to continue to heal and grow and learn. And, you know, I've heard a lot of times, you know, people that go on a healing journey and they're like, oh, I'm so good now. I'm a guru. And, you know, I'm done learning. Now I'm going to teach. Run from those people as far as you can.
Yeah. Because
You
every day
know,
is you're learning
yes,
something.
just run really, really fast. Because, like I said, as long as you're on this side of the dirt, there is nothing that you can't learn. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we go through life and, you know, I've had people say to me in conversations like, well, I heard you on an interview a couple of years ago and you said something totally different. And I said, because at that time, that's what I believed. But now through my life experiences and what I've endured and what I've gone through, I see things a little bit differently. I have more
Mm-hmm.
compassion
Yeah.
of the situation and the circumstances. I I find that I really hard, and it's not always easy, because trust me when I say I like to throat punch people every once in a while too. I don't do it. I don't recommend it, but it doesn't take
Right.
away from the feeling that we are human,
Yeah.
and we have to accept the fact that we're perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
And you know, the more that we can accept ourselves with all the flaws that we have, the better off we're going to be. And stop giving a shit so much about what everybody else thinks about us. You
Yes,
have
that
to,
right
in
there.
yourself, you have to know who you
Mhm.
are. And it all comes with healing. And we change. We change on a day to
Yes.
day basis. Situations, circumstances, events that take place in our lives, things that we see, all these things have a huge impact
Yeah.
on how we perceive things, how we handle things, and how we can change the perception of, not just the perception, but how we can use that to not only enhance our ability to learn from it, but how we can use those tools to teach about those
Yes.
things. And yeah, if you would have asked me 2 years a certain question and asked me that same question today, and it
Hmm.
might even change tomorrow. I don't know,
Yeah.
something might happen on a view or a thought that I have about how things are now. But ask me tomorrow, and if something happens that impacts my life to change my way of thought for that particular thing,
Hmm.
then that's what it is. It doesn't mean I lied or that I just said something because of this or that. It's because life can change you. It can change your perception. It can change how you forgive. It can change how you learn. It can change how you grow. And that's what
Yeah.
it's all about, is healing, healing, healing. And
Yeah.
Jesus
And
mercy,
situations.
Yeah,
Yeah, situations come into your life too to help you pull back those layers so you can heal and grow. And you're not going to be the
absolutely.
same person you were a month ago if you're doing the work.
Exactly. And we are pretty much out of time. Is there anything else that you would like to tell our listeners before I do our closing ceremonies? No, our closing statements for the evening. I want to thank you again for
Mhm.
coming here today. It's conditioned learning. It's breaking the cycle is the hard part. Absolutely. Sherry, thank you for that. And that's it. And learn behavior, right?
Yep.
It's and kids, they watch, they see everything. They're way smarter than we can ever give them credit for. And it's breaking that cycle. And it is the hard part. You bet it is. And, some days it's just like, uh, but
Mhm.
we can do it. And hi, Crystal. Hi, nice to see you. Um, and we talked about that earlier, about breaking the cycle and the patterns and
Yep.
rising above that so that we can teach our children, our grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews, and anybody else that's watching, right?
Mhm.
And I believe that we're doing it. I mean, I know for a matter of fact that just in what I've shared with the world, I'm breaking some cycles in my family and the situations in that I've shared in my book that you'll have to read about in terms of the abuse and the different situations in my life and how that affected me and how it's affecting people today. Um, and so, do you have any closing notes for us before I close
Um,
things off tonight,
yes,
Lisa?
anybody who would like to know more about domestic violence or is trying to heal from it, I do have a reclaim group coaching program that I do, and it goes along with my book. So you get the book along with it. For the weekend for 4th of July, I am doing 250 off, and that's more than 50%. So I can put in you can go to my Facebook page and click on my stand store, and it's there. And I can give you the link too if there's some place you want to put it.
Absolutely. You can put the link in the discussion on this event.
Yeah.
Please
And if
do that.
anybody ever has any questions that you want to talk, just reach out, message me on Messenger. I usually reply back pretty quickly, so don't
Perfect.
hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you again so much. I really appreciate you being here tonight, Misha. And I want to thank you for your time tonight. And I want to thank each and every one of you. And Yolanda, I see you as well. I feel like, what's that romper room show? I see you and I see you. I see you all. I really do. And I am truly grateful for each and every one of you who took the time to come out tonight and to spend these last 2 hours with us. And my name is Jessie Tylre Williams. I'm the author of Rising Above Hell and obviously the host of this podcast, Rising Above Hell. This is episode 2, The Unspoken. So don't forget to follow us on social media, both Misha, Paul, and myself. And to get live updates, I will be hosting another podcast in 2 weeks where I will have another very special guest, and details will be announced in the next couple of days. And so stay tuned. Again, remember, if you have a choice to be right or to be kind, always choose to be kind, and take care of yourself and take care of each other. This is Jessie Tylre Williams signing off. Take care and thank you again.